What's going on, everyone? Okay, so today I wanted to shoot a quick video to go over the Pistons' upcoming draft. So the 2019 draft, I wanted to shoot a quick video to go over who some of their options are for this upcoming draft and kind of give you a little background on who some of those prospects are that the Pistons might be targeting. So I'm going to focus on that today. I know there's a lot of stuff kind of moving around this offseason as far as, free agents, trades, and just kind of the Pistons roster composition moving forward and everything like that. But today I'm going to go just kind of strictly with the upcoming draft, what I think they might do and everything like that. So I'm going to shoot this video kind of given I currently believe that the Pistons are going to retain this pick. I know I've seen some information circulating in regards to the Pistons potentially trading one of their picks for this upcoming year, potentially moving down in the draft because it's supposedly a very front-heavy draft. I personally think this draft actually has quite a bit of talent in it, but it's kind of overshadowed by those top three players and kind of making people think that this draft is purely these top three players. I think it's actually a fairly deep draft. But with that said, I'm just going to be kind of going over those players who I think they might be targeting. And I don't think they're going to trade away their pick for a player. You've seen some of the Mike Conley talks and things like that. If anything, I think the Pistons might trade down in the draft. If they do, Boston's potentially an option to grab a couple of their picks they have later at like their 20 and 22nd pick or something like that could be an option. But in reality, I'd say there's probably 75 to 80% chance that we just hold on to our 15th pick and we draft the best player available. So I think that's going to be their strategy as well. They're going to draft the best player available, is what they say. And in the long term, I think that's definitely the smart move. I personally hope a player falls that really fills their need. Their top few needs in order are definitely going to be like a small forward and wing player. They need somebody desperately that can defend at a high level. It also has some playmaking ability. That's their number one need is, wing defender, big, that has some playmaking ability is really their biggest gap on their team, I believe. Also, they could target a point guard. They could target a backup like center, being that, that's potentially an option moving forward. We kind of only have, like, Blake Griffin's a power forward. Thon Maker can kind of try to play center, but we kind of have a gap there, too, behind Drummond. And thank God Zaza is going to be moving on this year because that dude is probably the worst player in the entire NBA. I could not stand watching him this year. But with that said, wing is definitely our highest need. I think we could potentially target a center or a point guard in the second round. Ideally, we'll have a good small forward or even a shooting guard fall to us in kind of that 15 spot, potentially even a power forward. Somebody that can play a swing player, they can play the 2, the 3, or the 4. They have to be able to defend and they have to be able to play make. That's what we need. So I created a list kind of in ascending order of who I think the Pistons might draft. And I'm going to kind of go through that list, give you some background on each of the players and things like that. So, and again, this list is not necessarily who I think the best options are for them. I'll touch on that and give you kind of some of my thoughts there. But I have this list that I created is what I think the Pistons list will look like on draft night. So I think this is what I'm going to go through is what I think their list looks like based on the information that I've seen and read and based on the information that their managers, Ed Stefanski, Coach Casey have released. I think this is a good idea of what their draft board might look like, so I'm going to go through that. I'm going to go through it kind of based on who I think is available too in their 15th spot. So starting off, Sekou Doumbouya. So the international player, he's kind of rated currently around the 8th spot on a lot of the big draft boards. So it's kind of a stretch that he will be there. But if he is there, I think he would be a great fit. He's kind of that power forward player. So he can play that small forward, that power forward position. Very tall. He has 6'9" height, 6'11" wingspan, so very tall, very lengthy, still growing into his body. He's 18 years old, one of the youngest players in the draft, so really a lot of potential still there for him to grow and improve immensely. He's got a very good overall skill set. He can defend. He's fairly athletic for a big man, has good agility. He's developing a pretty good jump shot. He can shoot from deep. He can actually play make too, so he's quick enough where he can actually play make. He can make moves. He can get to the lane, which is something the Pistons need very, very badly. Somebody that's not just spotting up, taking those open shots. We need a playmaker. So I think he really fits all the spots. Not necessarily at an elite level yet, but he has the potential to, really become an elite player. If he can excel in all those areas that he's already good at, he could be a potential all-star in the future. Might not be this next year, so it doesn't necessarily fit them particularly great from the aspect that Blake Griffin is getting older, has an expiring contract in a few years. But with that said, you got to draft the best player available to create the best team in the long term. So Sekou Doumbouya, great option, could be a great pick for us. So moving on, the next player that I think they have on their list around this range is going to be Kevin Porter Jr. So Kevin Porter Jr. out of USC kind of reminds me of Swaggy P a little bit in terms of just their personas, personalities. Seems like a little bit of a troublemaker, laid-back guy. Seems pretty cool, actually, to me. But I think he is the next best player in this draft. I think he's being drastically underrated due to just conduct issues he's had off the court, some kind of minor stuff, honestly. And then also he got injured, so he missed some time. And but with that said, he's kind of fell down the board a little bit, coming in around the 13th spot on most rankings. But he could potentially be an awesome option. You watch this dude's highlights. He is an absolute playmaker. Can jump out of the gym, throws down hammers. He can shoot. He can play make at an elite level. He has great handles. Super young, just a freshman. Has potentials through the ceiling. He's a 6'6" athlete, like a 38-inch vertical. Or 6'6" athlete, 6'9" wingspan. So he's got the length. He's got the athleticism, the playmaking ability. He has a good jump shot. He's a good 3-point shooter. The only things really are you have his lack of consistency, which is one thing people are concerned about. Injuries could be dealing with that. Immaturity could be, kind of the reason for that. But with that said, the Pistons do need to kill this draft, and he has the potential to become an elite player in this league. He's had comparisons to James Harden in terms of just his flow, his jump shot, and his playmaking ability. So I think if he's there, he's honestly the player I want the most out of everybody on this list. So I think he would be a great option for him. So moving on, the next person I think they have on their list is P.J. Washington. So not necessarily the player I want the best next, but I think they kind of have him slotted in there right after Porter Jr., a power forward player out of Kentucky. He is a great player. He's 6'8", 7'3" wingspan, has a great vertical. I think he's like a 36-inch vertical for his height. That's great. Just a solid all-around player. Has a good jump shot. Has good post moves. Can defend. He has the length. Not a super great playmaker, but he is young. I think he's 19. He's a sophomore this year, so a lot of room for growth with him. Has one of the higher floors of most players that I'm going to go over, just because he has that decent ability as far as post moves and shooting. He can score already. He can defend. He's got that 3-point shot. He's potentially just a good 3-and-D player out of the gate. That's kind of a plug and play. Doesn't have that elite ceiling because he doesn't have necessarily elite athleticism, in my opinion. But you never know. Either look at like a Jokic in the NBA. You never really know where ceilings are if he can kind of cultivate and grow all of his strengths to an elite level. He could potentially be an elite player too in the future, but I don't see it necessarily. But you don't need an elite player. You need a great role player, and that's exactly who he would kind of be out of the gate. So I like him next on their big board right after Doumbouya and Porter Jr. So next, I think the next player they have on their big board is going to be Rui Hachimura out of Gonzaga. So he's a power forward. He's 6'9", 7'2" wingspan, great length. Again, a great all-around player, somewhat similar to P.J. Washington. Has a little bit better size in terms of weight. He can kind of bowl people around a little bit better in the lane. Is a better post player. is a pretty unique athlete for his size and his weight. He's a pretty quick dude, pretty agile. He started playing the sport at an older age, so even though he is a junior this year, he is a little bit older than most of the players that I have on this list. He does still have a lot of room for growth, and if he can develop a good outside jumper, he's got a good mid-range jumper. If he can develop a pretty good 3-point shot, he could be an incredible player. Definitely a lot of potential for him. Decent defender, not great. So not who I would want them to draft, but he is a good player, and I personally hope they don't draft him, but he is a great player. So moving on. So the next guy I have, this is one guy that I really want them to draft. Out of all these players I've listed so far, I'd have him third after Demboya and Hachimura, is Keldon Johnson. So Keldon Johnson out of Kentucky, this is a player that I would love for them to pick up. He's a 6'6" athlete, 6'9" wingspan, a small forward. Some of his areas that he excels in are he's a great defender. He's a great shooter. He has just a great energy, great motor. He's a competitor. He's a winner. He's athletic. Not super athletic, but he is really athletic. He's got he's got a great highlight reel. He can jam. He's somewhat of a playmaker. He can improve in that area. But he's kind of got all the things that he would fill the Pistons' needs. Probably the second best out of all these players I've talked about so far. Just because he's a playmaker. He can defend. He can shoot. He's a competitor. He's gritty. I think he could be a great option for him. He's also a player that the Pistons have interviewed at the draft, so they've definitely expressed interest in Keldon Johnson. So I think he could be a great option for him, and I hope they draft him. He's around 18th on most big boards, so it would be kind of a little bit of a reach, and now we're kind of getting into there's a couple players that are actually ranked above him, so it would be a little bit of reach. But I think they have him up their board a little higher than some of those other players that are actually above him in most of the rankings. Again, they've interviewed him. They fit everything that they're looking for. So I think he could be next up on their list. So following that, I have Nasir Little out of North Carolina. So a lot of people have him ranked higher. I personally, I'll get to kind of how I feel on him, but he's a 6'7" athlete, 7'2" wingspan. He's got great athleticism. He is really strong. Coming out of high school, he was one of the highest ranked players in this class. He's a great defender. He's got a great motor, good rebounder. His playmaking ability is okay. He's kind of more of a straight line attack type of player, like a slasher. Doesn't necessarily have the agility that some of the other guys do above him here. Really, though, what I see in Nasir Little and why I think they'll pass on him is I kind of see a Stanley Johnson 2.0. I mean, really, if you look at their stats, their play style, they're very, very similar. He's not a great shooter, just like Stanley wasn't a great shooter. And, you just never know with that. That's a big risk. If they can't develop that jump shot, like Stanley couldn't develop that jump shot, there's definitely a risk to Little. If he could develop that, he could be an incredible player. But I personally see Keldon Johnson and Kevin Porter Jr. above him as far as small forwards go due to that reason. Playmaking ability and shooting, you just never know, and it's a risk that I would rather have them avoid with one of those other couple guys. But with that said, Dwayne Casey could go ahead and mold this kid into an incredible player. He has the athleticism to be an all-star caliber player. So I would not be mad come draft night if they did take him. But there are some risks with him. They have not interviewed him, though, either, from what I've heard. So next after that I think the Pistons have ranked on their big board is Romeo Langford. So with Romeo Langford, he is a player that they have interviewed. 6'6" athlete, 6'10" wingspan, so pretty long. Great playmaker. He kind of played shooting guard, so he's not a great defender. He's an okay defender. He has the length to be a good defender. Not necessarily as athletic as Keldon Johnson, Nasir Little, or Porter Jr., but great playmaker. He kind of has that tenacity and that ability to get open. And if he could develop a good jump shot, this dude could be borderline unguardable. He has just kind of that shiftiness to him where he can kind of get open at will. So he wasn't a great three-point shooter at Indiana. Part of that could be due to an injury that he had to his, I believe it was his left hand or right hand, whatever his shooting hand is. But he did have an injury that I think definitely held him back there. So if that really is the case, he's kind of falling in the draft quite a bit. And if they were to be able to pick him up, he could end up being a great playmaker, more of a shooting guard than a small forward. But if he can develop a great jump shot, he can hit a better three-point shot from the outside at a better clip than like the 27% that he was shooting at Indiana. He could turn out to be an awesome player and a great scorer for the Pistons. Not necessarily the defender that they need, but he could turn out to be the best scorer out of everyone that I've listed so far, if he can fix his jump shot. So the big if. But wouldn't be mad if the Pistons got him, because we do need a playmaker, and he is definitely a playmaker. So moving on after that, the next player I have on the Pistons big board is Nah. So Nikolai Alexander Walker, so out of Texas A&M, and he's kind of more of a shooting guard. He kind of actually play a little bit of point guard, but this dude's gritty. He's got that kind of that Detroit grit to him. He's 6'6", 6'9" wingspan. Great three-point shooter. Probably the best three-point shooter out of everyone I've listed so far. Shot over 40% in his entire career at Texas A&M. This dude has great highlights. He is, in my opinion, he can play point guard for us, for Reggie Jackson. And in a few years, he can kind of take over that role, and he could also play shooting guard kind of in the meantime. Very, very safe pick, in my opinion. Has a high floor. He's a great defender. He's a great shooter. He is, if you watch this dude, his highlights, he's actually a great playmaker. He's probably the best assister of anybody that I've listed so far. He gets in the lane. He has incredible vision. He makes ridiculous passes, and the dude he's not necessarily the fastest and the most explosive, or the most athletic, but he's really shifty. He's got a nice shiftiness to him, kind of like Langford. And he can get open in the lane and just make some ridiculous passes. So he could be a great playmaker for us too. Doesn't necessarily have that elite athleticism to, I think, push him up above some of those other guys. But honestly, he's a player that I could see the Pistons grabbing. He's a great potential option, especially if the Pistons move down in the draft. I could see them taking this guy. But also, I just think he's a great player. He's right there with Langford and Little and Keldon Johnson in my mind. They could go with any four of those guys. But he's who I think they have next on their list. And after that, I have KZ Okpala from Stanford. So this dude, small forward, 6'9", 7'1" wingspan. He has been interviewed by the Pistons. This dude, though, he is raw. He's a raw athlete. He has some polished skills, so he is a great shooter, actually. He shot his three-point shot, he actually had a really solid percentage. I think it was around 37% this past year. He improved immensely from the previous year. So that is definitely a good sign that he improved as much as he did. And yeah, great. He really, with him, it's all potential to be a great wing defender. He has the height. He's 6'9", 7'1" wingspan. He's already a good shooter. Not necessarily super agile. Part of that is because he's really tall. He's lengthened. He's kind of just now growing into his body. He actually kind of grew late. So with him, it's really about potential. Again, a great option in terms of if they do trade back in the draft. But although I could see them making a reach and just taking this guy too, but I do see him ranked farther down the board. I don't see them taking him at the 15th spot. If they do trade back, though, he could be a guy they go after, and they have interviewed him as well. And if he somehow falls in the draft to the second round, which I do not think he will, but there are some rankings that have him in the second round, and the Pistons have the 45th pick. So if that does happen, they will take him, no hesitation. But yeah, again, a great option for them if they do trade back, and in a solid player. So that's kind of my overview, guys. Let me know if you guys like this video. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'd love to have a discussion with some of you guys and kind of just talk Pistons, talk this upcoming year. I'm definitely excited about the season. I'm definitely an optimistic Pistons fan, and I kind of love the position we're in, love to be able to scheme different scenarios moving forward and how we can improve this team. I'm not somebody who's negative, thinks we need to blow up the team. We have good talent on the team. Blake Griffin's an all-star. Drummond's the best rebounder in the league. Reggie Jackson is good. Luke Kennard, great shooter, great up-and-coming player. We have a good team, and we just need a few more pieces. If we can land one of these guys and we make a great selection this year, we can have a great team in the next few years. So I'm going to keep it optimistic. I'm really excited about this draft and about adding some new exciting talent to this team. I'm really thankful we have a first-round pick this year. Pumped about that. But yeah, so again, kind of going over, guys, the big board that I have for the Pistons currently, and I have them kind of ranking those players in that 10 through 20 spot, is Sekou Doumbouya, Kevin Porter Jr., P.J. Washington, Rui Hachimura, Keldon Johnson, Nasir Little, Romeo Langford, Nikolai Alexander-Walker, KZ Akpala. So, yeah, guys. All right, I'll talk to you soon. I'm going to hopefully make a video here on what I think the Pistons might do for their second-round pick, kind of just toss around some names that I've heard and stuff like that, and I'll do that kind of upcoming here in the next few days. But, yeah, look forward to hearing from you guys in the comments, and looking forward to the draft. All right, talk to you guys later.